Carlos Nelson with the Kansas City Business Association, and we have a real special guest tonight. This is one man who really feels he speaks truth to power. He's running for mayor, Mr. Clay Chastain. Clay, welcome to the program.
Thank you, sir.
Same here. Hey, Clay, tell our audience a little bit about yourself.
Well, I have a history of activism in the city, promoting causes through the petition initiative process to basically it focuses on helping the everyday Kansas Citian. And some, most of them involved better public transportation to help people get to jobs. We have a transit system that's kind of a third world transit system, but yet people have to take 4 or 5 buses to get to like a job in the Northland.
Right.
So we needed a greener system that's quieter, cleaner, that everybody would use, and it would be more attractive, more efficient, and more easy to navigate and understand how to get to a job on this transit system. So that's a lot of the work I did, and a lot of it.
What's your platform per se?
Well,
You're running for mayor.
Let's
run through that, then we're going to run through some other things.
I'm anti-crime, pro-infrastructure, and pro-better schools candidate.
All right, anti-crime. What does that look like in your bailiwick?
To me, you have two fronts you have to attack it on. Number one is you have to provide immediate relief for people who are being traumatized by crime. People living in areas where there's a lot of crime. I saw a story about a woman who was out picking up litter and with another woman trying to clean up her neighborhood. Somebody came by and shot the woman in the leg. You know, and she's traumatized, and nobody should have to live in those kind of conditions. So you have to first deal with the immediate situation, and I proposed hiring 100 new community police officers, and that they would not only have a presence to deter crime by their own bicycles and that sort of thing, they get to know the residents, they get to know church officials, neighborhood leaders, and then maybe they're more of a natural repository for people to go to them and say, I knew who committed this crime, because a lot of them are unsolved, right? So, but they give a calming sense.
Let me interrupt you there. One key word you use, community policing. That's key, not just we need more officers.
No.
All right.
We need officers that are going to integrate with the community, and the community can trust them, and they're more there to have a presence of that the community cares about. Where the neighborhoods where these
one other interruption. Yesterday I was listening to a program, and they were talking about the reward system that they have here for unsolved crimes, and they thought that needed to be upped. That I think they were at 3,000, then 5,000, or what have you. But these other cities have 25,000 to find out about someone that is homicides and what have you. What's your feeling on that?
I don't. That's taxpayer money and trying to induce people to come forward with a reward. I think people need to be induced to come forward for the benefit of their community and their neighbor.
So where do you? All right, let's skip. Let's go on that education now.
Well, we have a school system that has not been fully accredited for decades, and my view is that with the being the 5th most dangerous city now in the United States, having a school system that's not accredited, have infrastructure.
Well, they just got their accreditation.
Well, not
supposedly,
full
right?
accreditation.
Yeah.
They're improving.
Yeah,
right?
all right.
But there's a stigma still, right? There's a stigma
without a
there.
doubt.
And so, if we're going to try to grow the city and attract businesses to come to the city, residents to move back here, put their children in the school system, right now, no thinking parent is going to move their family to Kansas City, Missouri, and enroll their kids in the Kansas City, Missouri public school system. And I'm one of those thinking parents. I have a 13-year-old daughter I have full custody of. I would not do that. The city's too dangerous. The school system's not good enough. We have another issue I have, is that we have a government that is not in power to represent the interest of the people. They're representing the interest of wealthy developers, rich people, and entertainment venues for them.
You know what? You're on the same page as Crosby Kemper.
Well,
And I don't know whether
I'm on my own page.
No, I'm
You know,
saying you have the same concerns when I say this. Those are things when we interviewed him as the same concerns.
Well, I think one of his concerns is that we have to lure development to downtown and so on for these glitzy projects, that we have offered exorbitant in tax incentives to rich people. They're already rich. So you're taking from the poor, really, and giving to the rich, because you're taking that tax money away from our schools, our libraries, infrastructure that we need. We need it. They don't need it. We need it. And I think that's his point, and it's a valid point. We were talking earlier about,
right,
especially the black people. They built this community, this nation, right?
That's what, from my understanding.
And a lot of people built it, helped them build it, and there were no such thing as tax breaks, were there?
Right.
But we got that job done, didn't we? How come we have to have tax breaks now?
Well, that's just as I said.
It's a scam, see?
Right?
It's a scam. In other words, if you don't give us a tax break, we'll take our marbles and go somewhere else. So they've foisted this scam around the whole country, and everybody's afraid, well, if I don't do this, they're going to take their development somewhere else, but I want to get credit for getting this done in Kansas City.
You see what happened with Amazon?
Same thing, see?
Yeah.
But at some point we have to stop this game, okay? Look, if you want to invest in our community, we want you to, but you're going to pay your fair share of taxes because our people need that money.
That builds a strong. That builds a strong community.
Absolutely.
I keep saying, how can you have a strong Kansas City and your urban core is not being paid attention to? You have poor education. You have poor economics across the board, from healthcare to investment. And I think we talked off camera a little bit about. In the urban core, most of the investments have been made through the public sector. The city, the county, the government, any investment. What would you say to the downtown council, the business people that have a lot at stake here in Kansas City? What would you propose to change their mindset to see that they need to invest in the urban?
Well, I would have a frank conversation with them. I'd say, first of all, we're not going to give any tax incentives out for glitzy projects to wealthy developers. If you're coming in for that, just turn around and go out the door. Second of all, I tell them that, look, we can't be a prospering, healthy community that we're proud of if all of our people aren't prospering.
I like that, Clay.
And that you need to start making some private investments in the poor areas of our city where there's not any opportunity, there's no hope. A lot of these young people, they gravitate towards drugs, crime, and violence because they have no hope. There's no alternative for them. There's no viable alternative for them. And it's in all of our best interest to uplift all of our people.
All right, switching gears again, we talked a little bit about Vogue Tech and alternative education and what have you. What do you bring to the table?
I think to me, what I would talk to the school board officials about is when whatever the legal age is when a student is not required to be in school anymore. At that point, or maybe even a little before, we offer them an alternative in school, not going to some VOTEC school, in the high school, public high school. Here's an alternative trades vocational program for you to go into. You can pick from another number of construction trades, electrician, automobile mechanic, machinist, and rather if you don't want to go to college, right? If you're not interested in college, and a lot of students aren't, and we need a lot of people in this country with trade skills because we have a lot of infrastructure that has to be maintained, and housing has to be maintained, and we have to build this to keep rebuilding this country. So we give them the alternative to learn a skill where when they get out, there's a demand for that skill, first of all. And second of all, they can make very good money and a decent, respectful living. And so that gives them a natural alternative to wanting to devolve into some of these base activities, gang activity and drugs, because I can make $40 an hour being a machinist.
Right.
See? So we give them hope and a viable alternative. So we need to make public investments in the poor areas of our city. Like I'm proposing a new transit system. That's a public taxpayer investment, right? But we also need private investment.
That's where I see we're lacking. We skipped right over this, and we talked in my office a little bit, but I cut you off. Tell our audience a little bit about your history, who you are. We were talking about your dad a little bit.
Besides being a troublemaker?
Yeah, that's all right. If you're not doing that, you're not doing nothing, my brother.
Amen.
All right. Tell our audience a little bit, because I think you've been maligned personally. Let it come from the horse's mouth. Tell them a little bit about you.
Well, my parents were born in the Depression, very poor. My father was born in a tent, and he got an apple for his for Christmas for fifth year when he was 5 for Christmas, and it didn't get any better for him after that. Proud people, spiritual people. He went on to become a chief engineer, World War II bomber pilot, and he lifted himself up out of his poverty, and he inspired me. You know, he's definitely.
In your profession, tell the audience, a lot of them might not know. I didn't know, but I knew who you were.
Yeah, I'm an electrical mechanical engineer, and I like to solve problems. I'm a designer. I've designed transit systems. I've designed a lot of things, and I like to combine beauty with utility, and I like to use what I designed to help people, you know, to help my community, to also benefit.
What made you, on the transportation, the trolley and whatever, you were the first one to come up with that. When did you come up with that?
Well, what
so
happened
long
was
ago.
After I had worked as an activist to save Union Station, because then Mayor Cleaver said it wasn't a priority, saving it. Well, we made it a priority.
Right.
We saved it. I wanted to use it as a transportation center. They trashed my petition for that.
What year was that?
That was in 94 and 5.
All right, yeah.
Then they were going to develop a new light rail system, and again, Mayor Cleaver at the time came out and said it was touristy frou-frou. That was a starter line, right? Everybody knew you were going to start. It was not the end-all line. It was going to be extended, but he called it touristy frou-frou, and the business community killed it. And I thought, wait a minute, we need a good, clean transit system that people can get the jobs on, get quickly there, understand this, be able to navigate the system. So I took up the cross, so to speak, of that cause.
The vanguard.
Yeah, and then we finally broke through and won an election in 2006, the only a major citywide transit election that was approved by the voters for rail. And I'll be darned if the city leaders, the government, didn't overturn the vote and say that they knew better than the stupid voters.
How do you feel about that? You're running for mayor. Quite a few times the voters vote on something, it passed, and then the city council changes it.
Well, that's why I fought them so hard. You talked about truth to power. That was truth. That was the mandate from the people. That was what they truly wanted. And they ran up against power, and the power overruled them.
Do you think the people are even aware of these things? Because I don't think that the people are aware.
But a lot of it was the media. The Kansas City Star kind of swept it under the rug because they didn't want it either, see? So part of this, what I've fought against, this David and Goliath story, is not only fought against the powers that control the government, but they also seem to have a control over the newspaper.
That was my next. Off camera, we were talking about this Mayoral Debate. Fill us in. When did you say that's taking place, and they froze you out and froze somebody else out? Let's tell our audience
this is truth
about
to
that.
Power again, as you say. Well, we've had several mayoral debates. All of those debates, they've invited all of the official mayoral candidates to those debates. But we get to the biggest one, the most important one, on public television. Can be aired fully on TV. And all of a sudden, well, they say that, well, I don't make the cut.
What determines who makes the cut?
Well, it's some bogus poll that they are pouring over. They said they're pouring over the poll.
Where did they get that advice? Them numbers? Because I know I haven't.
That's just what they told us.
Yeah.
They just told us that and expected me to buy that. That they ran.
Who else is cut out?
They ran it through their filter, and I didn't make the cut. See?
Who else is?
A general. The
general.
He's cut
right.
out of it, and Henry. The other candidate, I'm sorry, I can't think of his name.
But they've cut a couple of y'all out.
Yeah,
of the
they've cut a
debate.
couple of 3 people out of the debate. These were generally conservative candidates that were bucking the status quo. And so what we think is they ran us through this filter, and they decided, well, we don't want the people to hear from these 3 candidates, because if they get in office, the powers that be aren't going to be able to control them. And we only want people to be mayor that we can control.
Compliant?
And the six that are council people that are running for mayor, they're all passed through the filter, fine.
Yeah.
But they're part of the problem, right? We have the 5th most dangerous city in the United States, broken down schools, infrastructure, high taxes, oppressive taxes like the earnings tax on the working poor, high city debt, but yet they get to pass right through the filter, and they're okay.
You know that, and we were interviewing a couple of them, and I'm more like, what's your legacy? What have you done? When you were in Kansas City, what are some of the things that you did when you were coming up with these, the trolley and some other things that you'd like to see happen in Kansas City?
Well, one of the things I was doing was being an engineer, making a living for my family. 2, I renovated on the side, and eventually full-time business. I rented 20 historical homes in the inner city.
Excellent.
I picked up trash and litter, organized, I may sound mundane, but I thought it was important to have a clean city. And I organized and worked in the Roanoke neighborhood and the Boca neighborhood where I lived for 20 years. I organized those clean up the city.
How important is it, do you think, to get your community involved? And can you energize the community now like 30 years ago?
Yes, I can, because I have the type of dynamic personality, the passionate personality that I can inspire people to follow my vision. If I can give a fair shot, where they're not trying to distort my message and try to undermine my credibility. They put me on this as the mayor, Sly James, in the city. They put me on a watch list down there for 4 years, and for people deemed dangerous. That means they thought I might blow up City Hall if I was down there.
Please.
They even put me under armed security guard with my 8-year-old daughter down there. They put an armed security guard on me. They knew I wasn't dangerous.
I'm
but they
shaking.
Yeah, are you afraid of me?
Yeah,
Am I that?
shaking in my boots.
And so the idea was to make the people at City Hall and then the public at large feel that I'm dangerous. Yeah, I'm dangerous, and in this age, being dangerous is not something you want to be branded with, right? So they won't sign his petitions, first of all. And if he gets something on the ballot, I'm not voting for that crazy guy. He's dangerous. He could get back to Virginia, where you're from. And so that's the kind of power, truth to power. I represent truth. I'm sincere. I'm trying to help the people in this town, and they're trying to stop me from helping the people. So that's the truth I'm bringing to this power that's controlling this city for the wealthy. All the projects that we've seen in the last 10 years, let's count them all and tell me if any of them benefit the everyday citizen. The Power and Light Entertainment District, right? The new arena, the little 2-mile streetcar line, the convention hotel, the brand new airport we don't need. The elite need it, but we don't need it. We like our convenient airport.
Yeah,
it's paid for.
I think I said on that airport, or off camera, I told you I have people coming in town and out of town constantly. The first thing last week when one of my people came in, they was like, "Man, I like your airport. I got off the plane, I got my bag, and you were right there to pick me up." You go to any of these big cities with these airports, you got to take a plane to get your baggage.
Yeah, but the propaganda they put out was our airport's bad. It's broken down. It's old. It's obsolete. We need a sparkling brand new one with glass and steel. Even with this concrete structure we have, KCI I'm an engineer. It's absolutely structurally sound. It needs some renovation, but at a fraction of the cost of a new airport. People love it, but no, you can't have that. And then they misrepresented it to us. Said it's going to cost $1 billion. Turns out it's going to cost $1.6 billion plus all the bond charges on interest. Turns out the design is not what they told us it was going to be. Turns out that you're going to have to walk a lot further to get to the airplane than you do at the convenient air. Turns out they said there would be no taxpayer involvement in it. Now they want the taxpayers to guarantee the $4 billion of bonds for 30 years. And if the airlines go out of business, bankrupt, or we don't fly planes anymore, guess who's stuck with guaranteeing the payment on those bonds? That taxpayer of Kansas City, Missouri. Like the Power and Light District, remember? Cordish came in, oh yeah, it's going to be great for our town. We're stuck with a $15 million payment every year because of that stupid decision the city made to go into that.
And they were going to come anyway.
That's what I mean. That's what I mean.
It's like Jay Dunn. I'm leaving unless you give me.
That's
You're
right.
not going nowhere.
That's exactly right. It's a scam.
That's what I said about Amazon. Have the whole nation trying to
get down on their knees and kiss your shoes to come here and give you the farm, right?
Yeah, and then. And you don't even want the farm. They
don't even need the farm.
Right.
That's the problem.
They need to build another farm that's producing something.
Right.
But
yeah, it's enough to get you excited like we are. Yeah. And so
truth to power. That's the thing. That's
exactly what we're talking about.
Now I'm going radical on you to show you what they've done.
This isn't going to be a trick question.
No, I'm going radical on you, or I would say my white community would think this is radical. About a year ago, I'm watching one of the Sway or one of the major talk shows, black talk show, radio shows, and they have Minister Farrakhan on. And Minister Farrakhan says, the major media market have kept me off the air for 4 or 5 years, but this internet is the equalizer. He's been able to get, and they've done, that's why I said, they've done that to you. They've kept you off the air with the major
out of the papers, distorted my message in the papers, but now we have the internet. We have such a thing as Tony's Kansas City, where he puts everything I put out there.
Well, that guy don't have no filter.
He recognizes the truth when he sees it. He prints it, and there's not a damn thing they can do about it.
There you go. And so, even for our listeners, we're an internet-based company, and you can watch those debates. But when you go to What's Up Kansas City or our business channel, you get a chance to really hear what the candidate or the individual is talking about, who they are in their words, not my words. And they have enough time to talk to you in depth about what their beliefs are. So, is there any other subjects that you'd like to have our audience know that why they should vote for you for mayor?
Well, the primary reason is because I'm going to be a mayor for the people. I know that sounds trite and overused, but that's what I'm going to be. My emphasis is going to be on helping the everyday citizen of this city. And it's not going to be an emphasis on helping the people that already have it made. So that means whatever the issues that people care about, the everyday citizen care about, I'm going to be on it.
Do you think, tell me this, do you think the corporate community at large has serviced the African American community? Because I like to say we're African American audience, we have African American audience, we're African American network, and I have an obligation to ask anyone that comes on the program, what's your plan for our community? How do you see our community from an economic standpoint, and what would you do different than what has happened?
I see it as impoverished. I see it as neglected. I see it as ignored. And I'm not going to ignore it. I'm going to seek to invest in it. I'm going to try to convince the corporate powers that be that it's in everybody's interest, even in your interest, to invest in the downtrodden parts of our community and help uplift those people, because we're going to have less crime, we're going to have less racial tensions,
a healthier
city, and a more less economic disparity, and just a city that gets along better.
You know, I see Kansas City is could be a perfect template for other cities. I'm from New York, and I don't think I could have raised my family in New York and had buying a home. I came here. You could buy a home for $25,000 had pretty decent school system, and there was a lot of opportunity. It's not everything is out of reach now.
Well, it's not the city that it once was. That's
Right,
when
right.
I talk about, I use the phrase that I want to return to the people, the city beautiful. In the 30s and 40s, we had a great transit system. People had jobs. The black community was thriving in the 30s and 40s. What happened?
They still were thriving when I came here in '78. You had a lot of black businesses.
Right. I came here in '79 out of college at the University of Arkansas.
Oh.
What happened? We just turned our back on the black community. We started focusing on this glitz and these things for entertainment and tourists. But you know what? The people, we need to focus not on tourists, but the people that live out their lives in this city.
And
right?
bringing us together besides just rhetoric.
Exactly, and that's what transit does too. If we have a great transit system that everybody will use, it has a socially redeeming factor because everybody's going to be using it. They're sitting next to each other and they're not so afraid of each other.
Right.
Hey, I've seen you before. Yeah, you're okay. You know, I don't have any problem. And so to me it's the catalyst we need to get us off out of the doldrums that we're in the doldrums for 30 years. Our population hasn't grown. We've got these problems that they're getting worse, and we need some catalyst to focus on, invest in, that will turn the city around. And that's just one of the things.
And I'm wondering why do they think that? So you live in Virginia. If you didn't care about Kansas City, why would you even be spending some plane fare?
That's just a red herring.
Yeah, right. I understand. Hold it. I understand that.
Just trying to distract them from my message. He doesn't live here. He's the story.
Man's
over
been
and
here.
over. He lives in Bedford, Virginia. He lives in Bedford, Virginia. He lives in Bedford, Virginia, and never talk about my ideas.
Our congressmen and our senators, they live in D.C. for
a lot of people have a dual residence.
Yeah, right,
now,
right. That's what I'm
explaining
saying
to the people because
please.
I know it's odd. Okay.
Yeah, we
Number
need that.
one, I lived here for 20 years. I've remained directly connected to this city and trying to improve it for 30 years. I maintain my voter registration. Most of my family lives here. My two parents are buried on the east side. In a small cemetery in the city limits of Kansas City, Missouri. I have a personal connection. However, I have a daughter. I have full custody of her, and I have responsibility for her, and I have a court order that I can't leave Virginia.
See, most people don't know that.
Probably not. They
definitely don't know that. I don't know that. Yeah.
And her mother has moved back to the town, so if I were elected mayor, I could move back here, and her mother could take care of her, and I would be able to go back. This would be my primary residence. Transpose it, flip it, and Bedford would be my secondary residence. But they don't want to tell people the real story. They just want to tell people, alienate people against me, get them angry against me. He doesn't live here. What business does he have trying to tell us what to do? You know, they don't tell them my background, where I live.
They don't tell them that the idea for that trolley that y'all ride downtown was this man's idea. I don't care what they say, it was this man's idea. They put it on the shelf and then they repackage it as their idea.
Well, even Union Station, we saved that building, and there's not one.
Tell the audience how that went about. They need to know.
Mayor Cleaver was talking about tearing it down because he said it wasn't a priority. And I said, we made it a priority because we knew it was important, not only as an icon and the architectural grandness of it, but it could be transformed back into its original and highest use, which is a transportation center, a multimodal, connect Johnson County, Jackson County, Platte County, everything comes in there, it's a hub again, see?
Right.
They didn't want that. They didn't want it to be that. They wanted to have the Science City and put the Chambers digs in there and have dinosaurs down there. And so they didn't like my plan, and they killed the petition. Congressman Cleaver stopped it. And even when the judge ruled in my favor, Congressman Cleaver said, well, you know, we're going to honor what the judge said, and he didn't honor it. They put the Science City by-state tax on there. Remember?
Is that still down there, Science City?
Yeah.
That's still down there?
So voters voted on the by-state Science City tax for Union Station, not knowing what had happened to mine, and then the court said, well, yours is moot now, we've already passed a tax for it. So they never got to vote on my plan. Then when, of course, they passed the light rail in 2006, they overturned that election. So every accomplishment I've had, they've tried to downplay it and make the people forget about it because it's my idea and not their idea. It's my vision and not their vision that was approved by the voters.
Tell me this, do you think the leadership in this community have vision, that's another thing.
No. Or we wouldn't be investing in a new airport we don't need and putting people, the taxpayers in line for that debt if it doesn't go well.
It's going, Holly, you already, if it doesn't, you already know it's not going to go
Putting
well.
taxpayers in the hole for an entertainment center downtown for white people to go out and party and drink. An arena downtown for people to be entertained watching basketball and sports. Where's the investment in the infrastructure and things that matter in people's lives in this city?
Well,
where is it? Can you name one major project where we've invested in that really uplifted the everyday Kansas Citian?
What they'll tell you is Vine Street and those funds, I don't know, they were squandered. I don't know what happened. Well,
that's an entertainment district too.
Yeah.
And how does that really uplift the black community? How does changing the name of Paseo to Martin Luther King? He was about changing the content of character, not street names. So how does that uplift the average day black citizen on the east side?
It's subterfuge, in my estimation. When they came with that name change, I was more like, is this what y'all taking pictures with this sign, smiling about this? This should have been done in the 70s. What economics you would be leadership are bringing to our community? That's what you should be getting excited about.
Not only that, but yeah, it's a distraction from what they should be focusing on, is improving the lives of the people in the black community. That doesn't do that, in my opinion. It uses city money for something that could be better used for something else. And I think it undermines his legacy. He wouldn't have approved of that, of using precious tax dollars to glorify my name on a street sign.
No,
he was interested in the content of character.
Well, we don't have a whole lot of character. People will say they do, but we don't have a whole lot of that. In closing, what would you say to our people as it relates to why they should vote for you again?
Number one is I'm honest. I'm sincere in especially wanting to uplift the underdogs. And I consider the black people in this city the ultimate underdog.
I like that, because that's the truth. That is the truth of the matter. And in closing, what I would say, when you invest in your community, you're really just investing in yourself. And Clay, we wish you the best of luck on this run, and you're always welcome to come and do whatever you want to do, whatever message you want to get to our public, you're welcome to come and do that.
Thank you, sir.
Pleasure.
This program is brought to you by the Kansas City Business Association.